And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Friday morning showing a lot of IFR here from the Bering Strait down across the eastern Bering Sea there to the eastern, or actually all of the Aleutians, IFR across the southern Bering Sea. And good VFR in the interior, north of the Alaska Range though, looking for some IFR for the North Slope out to the Arctic coast. North of the Brooks Range up there, IFR out to the Arctic coast. Some IFR here around the Talkeetna Mountains, also the Western Alaska Range down along the Alaska Peninsula with VFR for the Panhandle, except southern areas kind of on the marginal side. For the afternoon, that reverses. We've got IFR up to the north, VFR central southern areas, marginal VFR here for the eastern North Gulf Coast from Yakutat to about Cape St. Elias. VFR here, Cook Inlet, northward to the Brooks Range, out to the west coast, Kotzebue Sound, portions of the Chukchi Sea, eastern Norton Sound, VFR. IFR, Alaska Peninsula, about roughly near or just west of Sand Point, covering just about all of the Aleutians, but pulling off the coast here, so some pretty good improvement. Nunivak Island should be VFR in the afternoon, and at least marginal VFR for St. Lawrence Island. Then for Saturday morning, IFR here, northern Bering Sea, right on up through the Bering Strait to the Arctic coast and North Slope, again south of the Brooks Range, all the way down now into the Gulf of Alaska, including Kodiak Island, and from Bristol Bay eastward here to the central North Gulf Coast, VFR. And marginal VFR, Yakutat on down across the Panhandle to Dixon Entrance. And for the afternoon, IFR out here over the central Bering Sea, and marginal VFR St. Lawrence Island, Yukon Delta Coast, and Nunivak Island there, and marginal VFR for the Aleutians, and areas of the Alaska Peninsula. Good VFR in the interior here, all the way up now even across the entire Brooks Range, with marginal VFR for the Arctic coast as that IFR area remains off the coast. Eastern Copper River Basin, mountainous terrain there, marginal VFR in the afternoon, and areas of marginal VFR for the southeast coast. And for passes, Anatuvik and Adigan, VFR for the day tomorrow, looking good for the Brooks Range for the next couple of days. And for Lake Clark and Merrill, VFR, rainy VFR, windy VFR, Isabel and Mentasta, both VFR. So the Alaska Range pretty much wide open all the way around. And Mentasta, VFR, Tanita, VFR. VFR for Portage too. Great day there from Whittier here on over to Portage. And for Chilcoot and White, marginal VFR. And for the freezing levels, 2,000 feet here all the way up almost to the Brooks Range there, 4,000 feet along the Alaska Range, and 6,000 feet into the Gulf of Alaska near Montague Island, cutting across the northern Panhandle. Out here to the west, we got 2,000 feet near, or actually the surface near St. Matthew Island, 2,000 feet there between that island and the Pribilofs, with 4,000 to 6,000 feet down to the Aleutians. Icing, areas of considerable moderate, one batch up here over the north central Bering Sea, another one here just grazing the Alaska Peninsula, and a third one out there to the west, staying to the southwest of Shemya and Attu. Otherwise, the southeast coast has at least a pretty good chance of some moderate icing there over the central and especially the southern areas, but icing free here, Kodiak Island, all the way up to the Arctic coast. Jet stream here, we've got south-southwest, 65 knots over the southern Panhandle with a stronger jet down across Vancouver Island. And up here over the Bering Sea, around this high along the northwest coast there, southeast winds up to 60 knots across the Seward Peninsula. Otherwise, jet stream here, westerlies across the southern Bering Sea and the Aleutians, 120 to 145 knots. 9,000-foot winds, strongest winds at this elevation a little farther to the south there, 40 to 60 knot westerlies south of the Aleutians, but good southeast winds here, 40 to 50 knots, Alaska Peninsula right on up to St. Lawrence Island. Much lighter over the interior, high pressure ridging over interior Alaska from the northwest coast here on down into south central. Low pressure in the Gulf of Alaska giving south to north flow from the northeast Pacific right into the north coast of the Panhandle there at about 45 knots. 50 knot southeast winds here for the north coast, central north coast of the Panhandle. Light from the Gulf of Alaska under high pressure over the interior. And for the eastern Bering Sea here, with this system pushing eastward, southeast winds 55 knots, Alaska Peninsula up toward the Pribilofs, and then westerlies at about 50 knots, but the strongest winds there staying south of the Aleutians. And for turbulence, with those strong southeast winds, occasional moderate, considerable moderate turbulence here for the Alaska Peninsula, right on up to St. Paul and St. George, light to isolated moderate for Adak and Atka, and with those strong southerly winds there along the central coast of the Panhandle, look for some considerable moderate turbulence, especially for small aircraft.